Hey, thank you so much for stopping by. So, today's negative coping skill that I want to talk about is just as bad as alcohol, and it's drugs. Alright? Drugs, kids. Drugs. What they say in Dare? Don't do drugs. Now, that line's a lot more blurry because obviously in a lot of states, marijuana is legal. Some of y'all are going to hate me. And I personally have nothing against weed, marijuana, any of that stuff. Um, but when you utilize it post stressor, meaning you're taking the weeds, smoking the pots, right after a serious stressor, when you're feeling extremely emotional and feeling terrible, and that's your go to, I'm sorry to say this, but it's bad. Weed is not a positive coping mechanism. When you have to take something outside of yourself to cope with your emotions, you're not dealing with your emotions. Now, weed is a tool to help calm you, and it can be used along with coping mechanisms, but it is not a sole by itself coping mechanism. So, for an example, in the psych field that I worked for quite a while, after a rough day, maybe I got hit in the face a couple of times, had some really intense one-on-one conversations with some fantastic individuals just going through a rough time. Then I would go home, and on the drive home, I would smoke weed. Then I would go home, I would eat my dinner, and then I would go to sleep. That was it. So, in my story and what I used to do was wrong, because I wasn't dealing with what I had dealt with throughout my day. So, if you are using smoking weed, pair it also with legitimate coping skills, because weed does help, and I highly recommend that over some of the more serious medications or other options that there are out there. But it is not your only coping mechanism. It is a tool, and you need to utilize and have other coping mechanisms alongside of that. And those can include having somebody to talk to, having a good breathing practice, workout practice, journaling. Either way, you need to have more than just, I'm going to go smoke after something that happens that stressed me out. Now, on the other hand, when you have these intense emotions, I have also seen people utilize other drugs believing that they are going to help them deal with whatever they're dealing with. So we've talked about alcohol, we've talked about weed, we've seen people use cocaine, believe it or not, meth, heroin obviously is huge, especially for pain reduction, and then it becomes addictive, and that'll be another video for another time. But the point being is, when we're using especially an unprescribed medication or substance that alters our consciousness, our perception of reality, it heavily affects our physical and mental body. That can cause more damage than the initial numbing of the emotions. And that's what we need to avoid. We do not want to numb the emotions. We want to lessen them or help calm down so that we can cope with our thoughts and feelings. Now, when you choose a drug, you're choosing to numb it. So that is taking the easy route, but the easy route technically makes everything a lot harder in the long run. Because, like we've talked about in earlier videos, you don't want to bottle it up, you don't want to keep it in. And that's exactly what drugs promote. Drugs and alcohol promote keeping it down, keeping it to yourself until you burst. And that's not what we want. We don't want a a bigger problem from you just not wanting to deal with it each day. Now, some days you don't want to deal with it, and that's absolutely understandable. But it's never going to go away unless you take care of it. So if you take anything away from what I said today, I know it's tempting to take the easy route and numb it all. But that is not going to help you in the long run. If you're going to smoke weed, pair it with some other fantastic coping skills, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. It is something that doctors prescribes. I'm not going to say if it's good or bad for you. I'm not going to have the polarized conversation in the comments about it. I'm just going to say it works for some people. Just use your other coping skills that we've talked about prior, or whatever you've learned by yourself that works for you. Thank you. Thank you so much for watching the video. Now, if you or anyone you know needs assistance due to mental illness or any difficulties in life, now we have a resource down below. It's relentless-nature/get help. And in this section, we include a bunch of free resources that go towards helping pay your bills, helping take care of your prescriptions, receiving counseling. We have the crisis lines all on there, and a bunch of other resources. Going through what you're going through can already be overwhelming enough. Then when you consider all the other things that you need to be able to pay for rent, food, take care of medications, doctor's appointments, all that extra stuff, it can just seem like an enormous mountain to climb. So we believe that the easier it is for you, the better and more hope. Hopefully it makes it 1,000 times easier to get everything that you need. All the resources are free. And another fantastic option on top of that is that you can share your story or talk about a topic with us so that we can put it on here, or you can end up being on our channel. And the purpose of that is your story matters. Your story can be the difference of somebody believing in that they can get better or not. So to all of you out there, wish you the best on your recovery. We're here for you. And if you're supporting others on their recovery journey, don't give up on them, because they would never give up on you. And we're all here for each other. Keep being relentless.